Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a situation in rural Japan that honestly sounds like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie. We're talking about a very real, very terrifying clash between wild apex predators and robotic sentinels. Yeah, you heard that right. Towns and farms are literally becoming the front lines of an unprecedented environmental crisis. So let's just get right into it. Okay, let's start with this absolutely staggering number, 50,000. That is the record-breaking number of nationwide bear sightings recorded in just one single year. And we're not just talking about catching a glimpse of a bear deep in the woods either. These are massive predators actively pushing out of the forests. They're storming into Japanese schools, creeping into residential homes, strolling through train stations, and even wandering into local shops. It's a full-blown state of emergency. To really wrap our heads around what that 50,000 number actually feels like on the ground, listen to this account from Satoshi Sato. He was out in the forests of northern Japan just making a video for mushroom pickers when he suddenly ran right into a mother bear whose cub was up a nearby tree, and she charged. He said it got close enough to literally tear his pants and bite him. He barely survived by raising his stick and fighting her off until she finally backed down. Now, he goes to work armed with pepper spray, bells, and a whistle. It's just wild.
So that brings us to part one, the unprecedented bear surge in schools, shops, and suburbs.
13. That's 13 fatal bear encounters in the year leading up to March, alongside 193 recorded attacks in just a span of a few months. This is a tragic milestone for the 2025 to 2026 period, marking a record high since tracking actually started back in 2006. It's a level of violence that's so unmanageable, it's forcing local authorities and the national government to just completely rethink everything they thought they knew about wildlife management.
Part two, the root of the crisis. Starvation and empty towns.
Now, you might be wondering, why is this happening all of a sudden? Well, it's really a perfect storm of two massive forces. On one hand, we have climate change. You've got these brutally dry summers that have left the forests with a huge shortage of acorns and beech nuts, which is basically the main food source for these bears. So they're starving, and hunger is making them incredibly bold. But on the flip side, you have a uniquely Japanese demographic shift. The human population is shrinking rapidly, meaning rural areas are emptying out fast. With fewer people in these fringe towns, there are fewer local hunters. So that human buffer zone, it's basically vanishing, literally leaving the gates wide open. And the desperation for the people still living there is just next level. Take this quote from farmer Sada Yoshizawa. He had bears showing up every single night to eat from the feeding troughs right inside his cattle barn. He tried setting up an electric fence, but you know what? They just walked right past it and followed him inside. So to avoid a bloodbath with his livestock, he just threw his hands up. He surrendered. Now he literally sets out enough feed for both his cows and the invading bears. Can you even imagine?
Moving on to Section 3, A Tale of Two Bears, Japan's Apex Predators.
Okay, let's look at the biological profiles of exactly what we're dealing with here, because Japan actually has two main types of bears. Check out the explosive growth of the Hokkaido brown bear. These are massive creatures, and their population has actually tripled over the past 30 years. We're talking an estimated 11,700 animals, which creates this massive territorial squeeze. Then you have the Asiatic black bear. They're a bit smaller and live throughout the rest of Japan. Nobody even knows their exact population numbers, but the reality is both species are being driven out of the wilderness by that exact same desperate hunger. Which brings us to part 4. Enter the monster wolf, the high-tech deterrent. So, with the wild closing in, Japan deployed something straight out of a nightmare. Built by the Hokkaido firm Ohta Seiki, this robotic predator is engineered to be as terrifying as possible. It's got this artificial fur coat draped over a metal pipe frame and a freaky open-mouthed mask. It runs on solar power and batteries and basically just sleeps until its motion sensors pick up an approaching animal. Then, boom, it wakes up, its red LED eyes flash brightly, the mechanical head starts turning, and it blasts out over 50 different sounds. We're talking guttural wolf growls, literal gunshots, and even human screams. And those distress signals can carry for a full kilometer. It is a tireless, completely unhinged mechanical sentinel. And you know things are desperate when you look at the surging demand for these things. The manufacturer is completely flooded. They've had over 50 requests this year alone, totally blowing past normal demand. Because these wolves are handmade, towns are staring down a 2 to 3 month wait list just to snag a baseline unit, which runs about $4,000 by the way. They're even starting to upgrade them into wheeled patrol models or making smaller versions to protect hikers and kids walking to school. These communities are literally just buying whatever time they can. Part 5. The military response. Boots on the ground. Now, it's pretty much unheard of to see active military troops deployed for wildlife control, but look at what's happening in the town of Kazuno. The fear got so bad that residents were told to stay out of the woods, lock down after dark, and literally carry bells just to step outside their front doors. It escalated to the point where 15 soldiers from the Japanese self-defense forces had to be deployed. You've got soldiers rolling into town in army trucks and jeeps, geared up in white helmets and body armor. Their mission? Patrolling neighborhoods, safely transporting local hunters, and inspecting these massive box traps to catch the bears. It's a literal military operation. And this panic? It's so widespread that it's actually moving financial markets. Check out TMCO, a company that sells bear spray and rifles. Their stock has skyrocketed an absolutely insane 95% year-to-date. Moku is up 27%. To put that into perspective, it completely blows the National Topics Index gain of 19% right out of the water. The demand for bear spray is so off the charts that trading volumes for TMCOs surged, even when the company reported massive losses in their standard clothing divisions. Pure fear is driving the market right now. Section 6. Reclaiming the Habitat. A Shrinking Nation's Dilemma. As biologist Koji Yamazaki points out in this fascinating quote, certain regions are actually slowly reverting back to deep forest. It's kind of ironic, right? In a world where human expansion is usually destroying nature, this whole crisis is actually a massive biological success story for the bears. Japan is one of the only places on the entire planet where a large apex mammal is actively reclaiming its historic habitat. But, of course, that biological success is creating an absolute daily nightmare for the humans living on the edge of it. Which leaves us with a pretty unsettling question to end on today. As Japan's human population continues to age and shrink, and as wild, hungry predators grow bolder and more numerous with each passing year, can a robotic monster with glowing red eyes and recorded screams really keep a country safe, especially when the wild is quite literally closing in at the gates? Definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.